Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the nerdiest competition ever created by the Language of Bromance team. In this corner, obsessed with Star Wars and anything with swords, Richard! And in this corner, obsessed with the Ninja Turtles and scared of anything from the ocean, Shawn! Brought to you as a Pod Bros exclusive in association with the LOB Army. Tonight's competition is a Language of Bromance Draft.
What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And today we are once again doing a why are you doing a
because it's pros to foes. It's a draft. We're drafting, Richard.
Oh, we're once again speaking the language of fomance.
Yeah, so this week, Richard, for our 41st draft, we are going to do the Whedonverse draft. And what this is, everybody, is this is our favorite characters from all of the Whedonverse TV shows. And if you don't know, and you should, what our drafts are, they're 7-round NFL-style drafts where we flip-flop picks. So if I have the first pick in the first round, I get the first pick in the second round, and Richard gets the second pick. So vice versa. And if you back in the day, what we did is we flipped the penny to see who goes first, and I won. So on odd drafts, I get the first pick, and this is an odd draft, Richard. So I will get the first pick to the Joss Whedonverse draft.
Yay!
All right, you ready to jump into this?
Bring it.
All right, Richard. So for a Joss Whedon draft, I feel like this is the go-to, the number one pick that you have to take. It kind of, he had some stuff before this, but I think this is really what kind of kicked the Joss Whedon as the Joss Whedon we know. I'm going to have to go with Buffy Summers.
Well, I mean, it's kind of odd. It's kind of the general one.
It's very much is. But if you're thinking of like, okay, if you think of Joss Whedon, the first thing you think of is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Sarah Michelle Gellar played this character really well. It's a badass chick, at a time where there weren't a ton of badass chicks.
Hey, wait a minute. Okay, were we giving any love to Christy Swanson here?
I mean, I honestly did not hate that movie, because I was like 7 or 8 when it came out. And I was a weird kid that liked vampires, so I dug it. I actually, Richard, when I knew that the TV show came out, I watched it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like they've made more movies. And I watched the first one. I'm like, wait, this isn't Buffy. Who is this? Who's this imposter? This isn't the Buffy I know.
You know what I love the most about the movie? Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah. That was pretty good.
Paul Rubens sold that movie for me.
When he gets stabbed and he's sitting there kicking the wall. Ow! Thump, thump, thump. Like at the end credit scene, I think they show him still kicking the wall.
Yes, I loved it. Loved it.
The principal going around giving out detention slips to all the dead vampires. You get detention. You get detention. Oh, you get detention. He's like the first Oprah when you think about it.
Everybody gets detention.
But I mean, you think of, this kind of ties into the first big TV show he had. It really kicked off. I mean, if Buffy didn't succeed, you wouldn't get all these other characters we're going to talk about.
That's true.
Again, like, I'm kind of curious. They're making a remake, right? Like Buffy,
They are. I have heard this.
I've heard conflicting things. Like some people are saying, no, it's a complete reboot. Some people are saying it's like a continuation, which I hope it's just a continuation. Like, to me, that would make more sense. Like, the Buffy versus this is just the newest Slayer, the next generation Slayer.
I don't know. To me, it all sounds bad because I'm not, like, it doesn't, number one, I feel like it doesn't need a a reboot, and when it doesn't need a reboot at all, because I feel like a reboot is for things. This is okay. You know what? Let's get more general here. When you're talking about rebooting something, I feel like a reboot is used for something that was bad, and let's make it good.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. A missed opportunity. It's like a story that was there. It was kind of missed.
Or a story that was good and kind of like fell super flat. So like Spider-Man, okay? You had emo dancing Spider-Man, and then they're like, oh, let's try this again. And then they came out with the Amazing Spider-Man with what's his face?
I don't know. He's British. He's weird too. First one was good though. Second one, not so much.
First one was good. Second one, not so much. And they were like, shit, okay, let's reboot. So that we're going to reboot this. And then we had good Spider-Man.
Well, that's because Sony's like, hey, listen, why don't you just let us borrow this character and we'll make it better.
Yeah.
Well, Richard, on that like argument, so if they do a continuation, so they do, Buffy now, so you get like Giles, episodes with Giles poking his head in, Willow and all of them. So if you're like, well, we don't need that because it was good. Well, then why do we need Star Wars 7, 8, 9? Those first three were good. Why do we need a continuation?
Okay. So now let's talk about continuation. Because to me, 7, 8, 9 is not a reboot. You're continuing. It's adding on to a story.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So when we're talking about Buffy, do we need a continuation of the Buffy story? Shawn, we have it. There's comic books.
Yeah, but I mean, I think comic books kind of don't reach as many people as like. So if they, I think the continuation. And when I say continuation, like it would be kind of like what Star Wars did, where this is not Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's probably like insert girl name the Vampire Slayer.
Okay.
So it's like Buffy's happen.
I could get behind that if it was like a completely different girl in a completely different city with completely different everything. It's just kind of inserted into this Buffy universe with all this other shit that had happened.
Sunnydale had happened. You probably have like one or two episodes that explain like what happened over the X number of years. Somehow you're going to have all those Slayers lose their power. And like, this is the lone Slayer, I think, to get it back. The only downfall is like you really couldn't have Spike and Angel back in it because they really wouldn't fit unless you got the Marvel de-aging. Then you could have it. But going back to original Buffy, this was a real strong character. It was a character I think that had a lot of confliction. Like, is she good? Is she bad? Does she really want these powers? Very much like a coming of age tale.
Oh, yeah.
During the times of like when this was going on, like I wonder if I'd look at it like if I was this age when it came out, I would be like, oh, that's like a teen. Like CW shows today, you see like they're very like just teen oriented.
Yes.
I feel like my parents really liked this show. So I feel like it kind of fit the right demographics.
It all comes down to the writing.
Well, and it just seems like this made like kids seem smart. It wasn't just kind of like they didn't play on like, ridiculous
dumbed
love
down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then,
but it was, I would say in that day, it was still considered like a teen show. Because like I didn't watch it. I didn't watch the first like 4 seasons.
But that was from misconception. You were like, I'm not watching this because it's a teen show. And then you watch it like, this isn't a teen show.
True. But it was like on the WB, and it was like they're like, hey, we got the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's on right after Dawson's Creek. And you're like, what the fuck?
You're like, Sarah Michelle Gellar, she's a hot blonde. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a woman in power.
Oh, stop it. Don't paint me that way. You sopping dick nest. Don't paint me that way.
But my first pick, I felt like when we talked about this draft would be up there. It's got to be Buffy Summers.
Okay. All right. Not what I would think to be. I mean, obviously it was going to be on one of our lists. I'm surprised it was your first pick right out of the gate.
Well, I think if you look at any like character list of this, she's always going to be number 1 or 2. So. Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. All right, Shawn. Enough with your obvious things. I'm gonna go with the characters that I loved, and the characters that I felt had had the best stories in that universe in and of itself. Shawn, for my first pick, I'm gonna go with a character not only that I felt had one of the best story arc going from beginning to end, but became an awesome character with depth and multitudes and started from nothing and was also like smoking hot because I'm a guy and that's the way we live. Shawn, for my first pick, I'm going to go with Willow Rosenberg.
Ooh, that's a good pick. That's one of my top ones as well. First, I mean, she was in love with a werewolf.
Well, let's go even before that. Before that, she was just like the nerdy kid that got picked on, and then she helped Buffy a little bit, and she ended up being really smart.
Well, she was always smart, but she kind of tripped her way into like supernatural stuff, I think.
Exactly. So she started out as the smart girl, like the brain, like the Thelma of the.
Oh yeah.
She was the Thelma of the gang, okay? And then going from there, then it was, hey, I'm in love with a werewolf.
A rock star werewolf.
A rock star werewolf.
Dangos ate my baby.
Okay, so then we go from there to, hey, I can kind of do witch stuff. And then it just kept progressing and progressing to the point where she was like, I'm a fucking badass.
Yeah, she was. And she even like went to the dark side, essentially. She was Dark Willow for an episode.
She was evil.
Which I think that plays a part in some of the comics too. But yeah, I think it's season 6, where that was one that was right about the time I started working. Like I was like 16, so I only watched like the first half of it. Mm-hmm. It was right when they changed to UPN, and like the first half of the season was like, well, this is kind of like hokey. Like it was kind of fun and kind of like, go lucky type stuff. I stopped watching it, and I went back years later to get caught back up. And I watched it like at that point. I'm like, it still seems kind of hokey. Like it's just not that great. Like the very next episode that I didn't watch, it gets dark quick.
Yeah, she's ripping the skin off people and shit.
You see Willow's love like get shot, and then she like takes the dude, like has the trees fucking like grab him by the ends. And it's like, guess what? No skin.
Yep.
It's like, damn,
bitch.
I wouldn't call her that.
Crazy.
She'd rip your dick off.
Yeah, she would. Because she has no use for it. Because she like the ladies.
I did have a big crush on Willow, though.
Everybody had a big crush on Willow.
Did you have a bigger crush on Willow or Buffy?
Willow.
Really? Mine was kind of a toss-up.
Without hesitation.
Like when Vampire Willow showed up, that kind of...
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It's like, I think I'm kind of gay.
Yeah, and also watching regular Willow pretend to be evil Willow was just so fucking cute.
She's a great actress too. I've seen her in a couple things too. Like, well, I guess Big Bang Theory obviously is the big one, but she was in American Pie. I guess
What's she doing Big Bang Theory?
No, I'm sorry. How I Met Your Mother.
Oh yeah.
This is some CBS show. But she was in American Pie too.
Yeah, she was the band chick girl.
Yeah.
Talking about band camp.
You think of all the people from the Joss Whedon verse, she's probably been the most successful.
And now she hosts that Penn and Teller show.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until I kind of stumbled on it the other day. Good pick. I like that one.
But you're right. I think, I would say I'm trying to think of other fairly famous.
Sarah Michelle Gellar just did
yeah, she just kind of, just kind of her choice. She just was kind of like, nah, I don't really want to do stuff.
Yeah. Seth Green, he's done a lot. He's probably the second one.
Yeah. David Boreanaz has Bones.
Yeah, Bones is okay. But then he was like in Seals. I haven't watched any of them.
Ugh, I hate that show. Nathan Fillion, though.
Yeah, Nathan Fillion, I'd say probably.
I would say that in terms of a career boost, I would say probably Joss was his biggest one.
Yeah. Did you see his Drake short?
Yes.
the Uncharted?
Yes, I did.
Ooh, so like if they don't make a movie off that, they're missing out. He did I know he's like got to be in his 50s, but he did good. I've never played any of those video games, but even if that's like close to the character, like go with that.
Yeah, it is. Okay. It is. Those games, I would definitely recommend those games. If it's like playing a movie.
So he's like a quirky Indiana Jones kind of thing. Yes,
very much so. It's a very cinematic game.
I gotcha. So you're doing more watching than playing.
Yes and no. I would say yes and no. But anyway, Willow Rosenberg, that's my number one. I felt like she had almost an even stronger character arc than Buffy, because she started as one thing and became something, 150% different.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Buffy started the show as the Slayer, and she ended the show as the Slayer. And yes, she went through, her own personal journey, but Willow went from being, a scrawny, nerdy kid. She went through not only a personal journey, not only a spiritual journey, but a journey into one of the most powerful beings in that universe.
I can agree with that. I think that's a good pick. It's you talked about Buffy being a little bit earlier. Willow seems a little bit early for me. I was going to kind of see her more in the middle rounds, but it's definitely a sleeper pick. It's one that you pick first round. Like, okay, like I could see it waiting, but it's not a bad pick for sure. All right, Richard, for my second round pick, if you're going to bing me on my Buffy picks, you're probably going to ding me on this one. So it's another leading character in one of Joss Whedon's universes. It's the one from the one season. It's from Firefly. So won't bury the lead too much, but it's the Malcolm Reynolds, the captain of the Serenity. It's kind of an obvious pick again, but with Malcolm Reynolds, like I was thinking about like, why would I want him so high? And he seems a lot like
you get one season of him and you get a movie. That's all you get out of it. That's
all of it's good. Yeah. But to me, I get kind of like a Giles feel from him. Like Giles is a guy that he seems kind of nerdy on the surface, whereas Malcolm Reynolds seems very like gruff on the outer level. So it's kind of like the reverse there. But underneath, they both have that character of like, Giles, you don't fuck with, suffocate you in your own blood.
No shit.
And then you have Malcolm Reynolds, who underneath cares for his crew. Like he will die for his crew. I've mentioned it numerous times on this podcast, but if I ever just want to like ugly cry to myself, I will watch the Firefly episode Out of Gas.
Yeah.
And the part where, Malcolm Reynolds on the ship by himself, he sent everybody off because he's trying to save them. And he has a little thing with Inara where he's talking about, she's like, you don't have to die alone. And he's like, we all die alone. And I'm like, oh God, we do. But you see like the caring of, they all come back and save him. And, he has that little moment where he's about to pass back out, but he opens up, he's like, hey, you guys are going to be here when I wake up, right? And, he's just got he just plays the full spectrum. He plays cowboy, he plays badass, he plays, caring father figure, he plays caring captain, just so much like depth and range on that character. And, like you said, he did the movie really well. Serenity was great. The comic books that they've played a little bit are pretty good as well. So I feel like, if I have to say like my number two pick, it's going to be captain. My captain, it's got to be Malcolm Reynolds.
All right. I definitely would have picked him. I'm not sure at what point I would have though. Might have been one of my first ones.
It's another kind of obvious one. I actually kind of debated between him and Buffy. Like you kind of talk about Buffy having a little bit less kind of a story arc. I think in one season of Firefly, Malcolm Reynolds has got a huge like story arc to that. Like they touch on so many aspects of his life, and even though it's a little bit like the whole Battle of Serenity, the whole the actual war stuff. Like there could be like 2 seasons just of that.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. All right, Shawn, pick number 2. You ready? Here we go. We're going pick number 2. I want the smart guy. I'm going Rupert Giles. Because, okay, so here's the thing that I loved with Giles in terms of his character development throughout the series is when you're talking about Willow started as one thing and became this other thing. In the case of Giles, that wasn't what happened at all. What happened with Giles was that he was this, stately British, bookie nerdy dude who later you find out, oh yeah, back in the day he used to fucking do all this crazy shit and he was actually a fucking badass and he never told anybody. He used to be a badass. He used to ride a motorcycle.
Yeah. Had sex with Buffy's mom.
Yeah, he did. Because he was a rebel.
He was.
He had tattoos that summoned demons and shit.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he did.
Mm-hmm.
He's a dude that knew witchcraft. Like we just said a little bit earlier, he's a dude that would like snuff you out in your own blood.
Yeah, and that's motherfucker's cold-blooded.
Yeah.
And he has no problem with doing what needs to be done for the sake of everyone.
And telling you about it as he does it. Like that's a scene like when I watched, I think I was like, again, I was kind of in and out of the season and I was kind of halfway paying attention and you see him come up, you're like, oh, okay, like Giles is going to say something, and he's like talking about like, Buffy, is too honorable to do the thing that needs to be done. And the guy's like, yeah, I know. But then Giles is like, well, I'm not. And you see like the instant like, oh shit look on that dude's face and snuffs him out. And it's dark. It is super dark.
Holds him out and it's over. So this is a dude that I feel like has all the qualifications already. And honestly, I'm curious to see like what the fuck else is this dude hiding? Because I feel like everything about Giles was like you had this one thing and then everything else kind of got revealed to you later. Like, oh yeah, by the way, he plays guitar. Oh, by the way, he sings. Oh, by the way, he fucking, is this, badass of a wizard.
Well, it's kind of like going through like, a parent's or like a grandparent's, belongings. You start going through their stuff. You're like, wait, when was Grandpa in a band?
Yeah.
Like, when was Grandpa a cop?
When was Grandpa summoning demons?
Yeah. Holy shit. Grandpa was in the occult.
He's goddamn succubus.
Yeah, I love Giles' character. I know they talked about after the Buffy season ended, potentially bringing him on, like basically doing like a Giles TV show, which I would have totally been down for.
Yeah, I would have been down for that too. I feel like it's one of those things you would have to do. You would have to be super careful with because the premise with the Buffy show was you had all the, it was like this team of people and they were all together, but you had this one like super powered being, and so things kind of developed into like it was essentially it was your comic book superhero fight before comic book superhero things were a thing. So you got this like comic book kind of fight at the end. In this case, you have Giles, who is neither super strong or able to take a hard punch.
Yeah, it had to be probably more like a detective type thing, like a Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, like a Sherlock Holmes, or even like maybe like a Doctor Strange kind of.
Yeah, that would work.
Kind of vibe you could do with it. I could see that.
I mean, you can see him lay the groundwork of him like working with the watch and things like that.
Yeah. So I'd be down for that. If you took a Giles show in kind of that direction, but also simultaneously Giles needs people to banter with.
Yeah, well, I think you could do like it almost be like you said, Doctor Strange, like Hellblazer.
Yeah.
Like a Constantine type thing. I think that would be badass.
Yeah. And also like Giles, I felt played off really well with other characters.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Giles and Spike I thought were funny.
Yes, that'd be good interaction between those two. Well, that's the thing too. Like if you get like somehow like Giles and Spike had crossed paths before.
Yeah.
So much you could do with that.
Good times.
Good number 2 pick. I like that pick. Which I think there's like no bad picks in this draft.
No, you're probably right.
So for my 3rd round pick, we just mentioned him with Giles. So this was a character that he bounced in and out of a ton of different episodes. He was in like, 1 or 2, I think in season 2, like 1 or 2 in season 3, then became a staple like for the rest of the season. It even appeared on Angel. It's a character that, I don't know, I think I related to him probably the most. It was a character that, he back in the early times, the 1800s, he tried to write poetry. They called him William the Bloody because of his bloody, awful poetry. So nobody liked him.
I felt like that was a stretch. I felt like that to me was lazy writing.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's kind of like you heard William the Bloody before. So like, oh my God, like in the past, was he like a serial killer? It's like, no, he just sucked at poetry. But that's kind of like, that goes to like the history is written by the victors.
Okay.
So he kind of laid that
fair
groundwork.
Enough. Yeah.
But it was one of those things, he turns into a vampire and turns his name into Spike. And it just shows that like you talk about like Willow and things like that. These are characters who in human form are maybe weak, get picked on. But once their soul's taken away, they just let shit go to the wayside and destroy stuff. And that's what my third round pick is Spike.
I mean, if you're asking me who do I like more, Spike or Angel, I mean, I think you gotta give it to Spike. I'm
in the same boat. I had these two kind of like side by side, and I'm like, who do I like more?
Is it because Angel was the dude that picked on us in high school?
Maybe a little bit. Angel was also kind of a pretty boy. He kind of seemed like everything worked out for him when it probably shouldn't have.
A little bit, yeah.
And then he had sex with Buffy and didn't call her the next morning. That kind of made me mad. He was kind of like the D-bag in high school. And Spike was more like the dude that was underneath he was the guy underneath the bleachers, but wasn't the dick under the bleachers. Like he'd be like, oh, you don't smoke? Well, that's cool. You can hang out with us still.
Yeah, I'll give you cigarettes.
You don't have to smoke them. Just hold them.
I was holding them for a friend.
So what's your favorite Spike episode?
I don't know. That one's hard. Probably him and Buffy talking about how he killed the other two Slayers.
Ooh, good call. Yeah, that was a great episode because that's where you kind of bounce back between like the times, because I think that was like right when the Angel series started. And it was like the second.
Angel, I think, was in its second season, and Buffy was in its fifth, and they did this kind of crossover episode where, like, the flashbacks, and there was an Angel episode and a Buffy episode. Then both episodes did flashbacks, and the flashbacks crossed over, but it was done in different. It was the same lines and the same thing, but it was done in different perspectives.
Yeah.
So, like, in one flashback, it was done kind of from Spike's perspective, and on Angel, it was the same flashback, but it was done from Angel's perspective.
So it was like right as Spike was coming out after he killed the Slayer.
Right.
That's a good call. I'd probably have to say that was probably my favorite one too.
Oh, I loved it.
But I mean, you get to see a good spectrum. You see, Spike. I think the most interesting thing about the Spike character is he went out of his way to get his soul.
That's true.
Angel was cursed his soul, but Spike went out, even though he had no soul, to get it for Buffy, because I think that shows true love, honestly. Like, I think Spike actually loved Buffy.
Yeah.
And I don't think Buffy loved him at all. She was just using him. She loved Angel.
No, I would disagree with you there. I think that she grew to care for.
I mean, she cared for him, but like if it's like Buffy has to choose between Spike or Angel, she's going to take Angel.
I think that Buffy loved Angel in the way you love the first girl you slept with, or the girl you dated in high school, like your first serious girlfriend. Like if my first serious girlfriend, like if I ran into her somewhere, I would.
Amanda's like, choose me or her. You're like, well, I have to choose her. Didn't you listen to our Joss Whedon episode?
Yeah, right.
So she goes up and stakes
by that
her.
token, like I'm it's this. I think you're talking about two different things. I think that.
Well, the only real proof I would say I have on that is the very last episode of Buffy when Spike is essentially sacrificing himself. And she says something along the lines of like, I love you or something like that. And Spike is like, no, you don't. But, thanks for saying that. Like, I think even Spike knew that she might have loved him, but it wasn't the same kind of love.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, I think that you're talking about two different kinds of affection.
Yeah,
and I think that the one she holds for Angel is like this kind of like nice puppyish, like girl, like he. And with Spike, I feel like it's more of
it's like the love you have to settle for.
No, I think it's more practical. I think it's more real. I think that her and Angel's relationship is a very pie in the sky kind of relationship. I think that her relationship with Spike is more grounded in reality.
Yeah, I could see that. But again, I think it's like your example of like you run into your high school sweetheart, you're going to pick Amanda over her. I think in this situation, if it's Spike and Angel, I think she's going to choose Angel.
I think that you might be right, but I think that it would be a harder decision than you think it would be.
I don't think it would be like easy, no, for sure. Because I think, especially as you get further into, I haven't read many of the comics, but when you get to the end of the last season of Buffy, I think there's more there.
Yeah.
But again, we don't really get too much on that after that. But that's my third round pick. It is Spike.
Oh, number three. See, this one's is kind of a hard one because I feel like there's a lot to choose from. Shawn, for my third pick, I'm going to go with a villain.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go with what I feel was the coolest villain in the whole Buffy spectrum. I know I've been sticking to Buffy a lot lately, but it's okay. Shawn, for my third pick, I'm going to go with the high-heeled, awesome villain known as Glory.
Ooh. I think she's made a couple of your draft picks, but yeah, that was a good season with her.
I felt like she was the best villain in the whole series.
I'd agree with that. She wasn't the one that summoned the priest, right? Okay. That was just the first evil.
Yeah. But okay, so like I said, I feel like she was the best villain in the series. But in terms of just a character, it was a cool way to bring this uber powerful character into a more it was an interesting way to kind of box that in, so that way it would fit inside a universe of essentially mortal people.
Yeah.
By saying that, this was a, terrible, evil god that was cast out of its realm and is now trapped inside the body of a person. And that it manifests itself every so often.
Well, what's cool is you get Buffy's sister out of that, too. If it wasn't for that character, you wouldn't have had Buffy's sister, which I thought added a lot to it. Which, again, that was kind of like you catch the end of that episode, and Buffy's like, somebody's in my room. And she goes up there and you see this girl and you're like, who the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And you hear them both say, Mom. You're like, wait, what? Did they just retcon this? Like, right? I was confused.
That fucked you up.
Yeah, because you had to wait a whole week to find out. You didn't have Netflix or Hulu.
No shit. Week to week.
But yeah, that was season 5 of Buffy. A lot of people said should have been the last season. Because it kind of ended. That was the WB to UPN transfer.
Yeah, that was when it switched. Yeah,
because 6 and 7 aren't great. I think like 6 picks up really well the second half. 7 I think's kind of like the last 3 episodes I think are really good.
7, well, I think that 7 was, if you're gonna ask me what the weakest season out of all of them was, I would say definitely 6. I felt like 7 kind of picked up steam towards the end. It kind of drug a little, mainly with trying to tie up a lot of different loose ends, and trying to find like a way, like cool things for all the characters to do.
Yeah. Although you get One Eye Xander out of that, which I thought was cool. And you do get the priest. I really like the priest character.
I was going to say, I like the priest character too. If you're going to ask me of another villain that I liked, it was definitely him.
I think the only thing that's tough about that is the fact that they basically unlocked all the Slayers, which to me kind of stops that whole storyline. I know they touch on that a lot in the comics, and it seems like they made it work, but in a movie or TV aspect, that seems to kind of kill, like, it's basically like saying, like, everybody has superpowers. Like, okay, well then, does that really matter?
Well, they touch on it later in an episode of Angel. Like the last season of Angel, there's an episode where Spike and Angel, there's a lady who was apparently a potential Slayer. She gets awakened with Slayer abilities, but the problem is that she was horribly abused and in a mental institution. And so then she breaks out of the mental institution and they're trying to find her.
That's actually I forgot about that episode, because the whole episode you're like, because she keeps seeing Spike and all these things, like, holy shit, did Spike fuck this chick up?
Yeah.
Like, because, in Angel, he had like a very like bad past of, messing with, young girls and stuff like that, like basically making them go insane.
Definitely.
And you find at the end that, like, no, it wasn't Spike, it was somebody else. But that was definitely an emotional tearjerker one for sure.
So I mean, I think that it was, when they did that at the end, you were sitting there going like, oh, did things get ruined? I felt like it opened a lot of doors that you could have taken the show.
Yeah.
And it opened a lot of different ways you could take the story in and of itself.
I think it just makes me nervous that feels kind of like jumping the shark. Because I know, like, in the comics, they kind of have like a command center type thing, which would be kind of neat. And I mean, if they did like we talked earlier about the Buffy reboot, potentially like extension, if they like touch on that for a little bit, like maybe the first like 4 or 5 episodes is kind of like this whole, here's kind of what the comics did. They have this like Slayer Avengers type of thing, but then you have some kind of event that just throws that to the wayside. Because, I mean, essentially that's what you would get. You'd get all these Slayers that are really, really good, and, like, evil's getting taken out. Like, there's no real fear anymore because there's, hundreds of thousands of Slayers. But then if you had that stop and now there's only one, like, now you have all these vulnerable people who had superpowers that don't anymore, and you only have one. And now everybody knows who these Slayers are, too. Like, you have, like, so much, like, storylines to that, which would be really, really interesting.
True, but then again, it's almost you could break it down almost like Jedi. Like maybe the Slayers have a difference in philosophy, and then there develops 2 different camps of Slayers. Then you have good Slayers and bad Slayers.
Oh, and then we can have a season where they go in and we see the Slayer midichlorians fighting each other.
Yes,
it'd be amazing.
Nailed it. We just wrote season 8.
All right, Richard. Well, my 4th round pick. This is a show that I don't think a lot of people talk about in the Joss Whedon universe. It came out on Fox. It had 2 seasons. I really enjoyed the first season. Second season, not so much. The season finales, I think, is where they should have took it, because they took it to like a post-apocalyptic world.
Oh, wow.
Richard, I'm going to go with the TV show Dollhouse, and I'm going to go with Elijah Dushku's character, Echo. So she kind of played like numerous characters in this, because the idea behind Dollhouse,
it was an awesome. I loved the premise of the show, and I think it was super. I think it was definitely a way to show off Eliza Dushku as an actress.
I mean, because was it like 12, 15 episodes in the season? I mean, she's playing a different character in each one.
Yeah,
and her main character is essentially this like robotic thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good TV show. I like the post-apocalyptic world. Like, they showed essentially like this dollhouse technology messed up so that like everybody was like scrambling to figure out like who they were. And it kind of caused like a post-apocalyptic world. Like, if you did that, that's like kind of like a Terminator type storyline. You have Elijah Dushku, basically like a Sarah Connor-esque character. Like, take all my money. I will watch that all day. Like, Elijah Dushku is like one of my, like, my sister was in cheerleading, and she loved to watch Bring It On. And every time she put that in, I'd be like, oh, I don't want to watch this. Guess what, Richard? There's a car wash scene. Guess who's in that scene? Elijah Dushku.
Yep. Yep. You know what? You know what movie you needed to watch also? The New Guy.
Yeah. Oh, I'd have. Trust me. Yeah. The scene where she's trying on outfits for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Even better, riding a bull. Riding a mechanical bull, Sean. She's riding a mechanical bull in that fucking show, Sean.
Yeah. But the Echo character, again, like, even if you just break it down to that, it's like this robotic thing. Like they don't, they kind of like break you down to a very bare minimal knowledge where you're very like, okay, doing just what people say, suggestive. And then they'll pump you in with a personality when you go on these dates. Essentially kind of like prostitution is really what it is.
And not the cool Nevada cat house kind.
No, not at all. There's somewhere like there was a guy who lost his wife, so every year he would have her personality basically injected in one of these hosts. But again, she did a great job with this. It was a great character. Kind of that like you almost think of like AI kind of storylines. Like she started becoming self-aware. She started realizing like this dollhouse place like really wasn't what it was. She'd have
kind of like what was it? What was that fucking movie? Lucy?
Yeah, kind of like Lucy, except she wasn't like couldn't get into like computers and become one
she didn't
with
like
computers.
Become this fucking higher evolved being at the end.
But to me that's lazy writing. That's like what do we do? She's the computer. All right. Well, now she has access to the internet. Now she hates humanity. Richard, my 4th round pick is going to be Echo from Dollhouse.
Well, Sean, I've got a couple smart people. I need an awesome girl. I need an awesome girl. Sean, for my next pick, I'm gonna go with girl that I feel had the potential throughout the whole show to be awesome, but you caught maybe a little glimpse of it, and you finally got it at the end of a movie. Sean, for my next pick, I'm going with River Tam.
On my list, sir. Yeah, so you see, I think there's one scene in Firefly where she saves Kaylee.
Yeah, where she shoots like 3 people without looking.
Yeah. What's she say after she does that? She says something really like creepy.
She does. She says something really creepy. I don't remember what it is either. But she like gives a little glance and then turns her head and then she's like, don't think, don't look. And she just pop and drops 3 dudes.
Yeah, and Kaylee's like, I sleep on the same ship as this girl.
Yeah. Kaylee's looking at her like, what the fuck just happened?
I think she said something like, I know where you sleep. And Kaylee's like, I sleep in the engine room.
With the door locked. Now double locked.
Oh, but the movie too, like the scene with the Reavers. Oh my gosh, like that is like a beautiful scene. Like her standing there as the soldiers come in, holding those 2 like axes with like blood
and
dripping,
fucking blood dripping on them or whatever. Like, tell me, okay, so do you buy into the theory that all the universes are connected and that River is some sort of slayer?
No, I've never really bought into that. I mean, that kind of makes sense, but no, I've never really subscribed to that. I feel like that's just people reaching to an extent.
I agree. I was just curious. Where you were on the whole thing. But River Tam, like, not only apparently super smart, not only apparently like a badass when it comes to fighting with whatever it is she can get her hands on, not only acrobatic or whatever, she's fucking like a genius. So she's a genius that can tumble around and beat the shit out of almost anybody that moves, including the entire fucking crew. Like, she's in a bar and she takes out Jane. She takes out Simon.
Simon has to say a word to knock her out.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I have to repeat this word. Jane's like, don't say it. It only works on her, Jane.
Well, now I know that.
Firefly, like, it's one of those things that, one show, one season, one movie. I think you kind of like think of it as like this perfect thing that you want more of, but you wonder how much like would have kind of killed that nostalgia. Like, I could have gone for 2 or 3 more seasons for sure, but
yeah, definitely. I think, I mean, I think it just depends on where you would have gone with it, like where the show would have gone. I think for me, determined would determine whether or not I would be happy with it. You know, because eventually you do eventually, for anybody that's like a passing Firefly fan or anything like that, like there is an actual on the record backstory of Shepherd Book.
Yeah.
Like the whole like, oh my God, what did this dude do before he got on the ship? Like, what is his life? Like it's in canon. There's an actual like super long story about where he was and what he did and why he's apparently this, you know, super badass that has this clearance or whatever. There's a whole story and it's actually kind of cool, and I don't remember what it's actually called, but I would recommend it. But I'm getting sidetracked because River Tam's a badass and River Tam's my pick. And I feel like River Tam is without, you know, doing the whole theory connecting thing. River Tam is the Buffy of the Firefly universe.
Yeah, for sure. I like it. Good pick. Was definitely on my list.
Minds.
Yeah,
she can read minds and shit. She's got fucking mind power. She's a
Jedi. She is kind of like a Jedi.
Yeah, legit Jedi.
All right, Richard, for my 5th round pick, I kind of had some tough time picking this over a couple other ones, but I think he fits here. So this was a character, Richard, that was another watcher that just showed up, and he was very kind of, you know, uptight. You know, he only killed a vampire in training, but as we get to the end of the Angel series, this is a legit badass dude.
Yeah.
Richard, I want to go with the Watcher, Wesley.
I mean, I would say he it wasn't really until the last like 2 or 3 seasons of Angel that he started to kind of come out or kind of come into himself.
Yeah, like he kind of got like a I don't give a fuck attitude.
Yeah.
Like he became like a bounty hunter type of thing.
He's shooting people in the face and stuff.
Yeah, well, and he screwed up where he kidnapped Angel's son and screwed up. Like he read a prophecy wrong.
Got his throat cut.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't the one that threw Angel at the bottom of the ocean, but Angel essentially threatened him while he's in the hospital too. And Wesley's like, I deserve this. Like he was ready to die. He's like, I fucked up. Yeah, kill me.
Yeah, he was. Yes, he was.
Not a whole lot to really say. I mean, I think like you talked about like Willow's character going from one thing to another. Wesley kind of did the same thing in a little bit smaller spectrum. You know, he started out as a watcher, uptight, kind of started becoming more of a detective type character. And before it came all said and done, he was more of a bounty hunter. Of course, he dies in the end, I believe, or it's maybe vague.
Yes, he does.
I know in the comics, I think he's like a ghost.
Yeah, in the comics, he was a ghost. No, he dies in the last episode.
He dies
at the very end,
which is a very Joss Whedon thing.
I think one of the wizard or something kills him. But so the difference I feel between Giles and Wesley is, you know, Wesley's this like book smart, uptight British dude, and eventually he becomes kind of like a bit more comfortable with himself.
Well, I think it's more of like Giles is from the streets and he's been in the shit for a long time.
Giles seems to me like this dude that was like that the whole like uptight British, you know, proper gentleman thing. The whole thing was a bullshit act.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It only took 3 seasons for that to finally fucking fade away. It's like, you know what? I just want to fucking play guitar and
save
kill a demon. World. Yeah, I just want to play guitar and save the world and be a badass wizard.
Well, Wesley was like the ideal Watcher's candidate. Giles, I think, just somehow got in based off like his skills and things. Like he was the guy that they looked down on, which is weird that they would give Buffy to him at that point to watch.
Yeah, that's true.
But Wesley was that guy, like their main candidate, like you said, book smart. And then once he got into the shit and kind of like, you know, over seasons of seeing like the Watchers really weren't what they're up to, getting like kicked out of the Watchers Council. But again, like you see like those couple seasons where it's like Bounty Hunter Wesley. Like I would love to see a comic series or like a couple episodes just based off that, because he was badass in a couple of those episodes.
You're not gonna get that because he's dead.
Yeah, he is. But my fifth pick, Richard, is Wesley from Buffy and Angel.
God, we're on 5. I feel like there's ones I'm missing, and I can't think. Oh, I can't think of where to go next. Okay. Yep. Okay. For my next pick, I'm gonna you got your Slayer. Okay. Now it's time for me to have a Slayer, Shawn. We already talked about it earlier. Shawn, I gotta go with my girl Faith.
Yep, that was gonna be my next pick.
Because she's also a Slayer, but she's the bad girl Slayer. And who doesn't love a bad girl? If she smokes, she pokes. That's what Lois Griffin taught me.
Faith is a character that, oh man, like that was like a very emo, early, late 90s, early 2000s. Like that's like, whenever I think of that, I think of Faith. It's girl with a tattoo, badass, like, oh man, like when she rocked Xander's world, like I wanted to be Xander in that moment.
Right? Question for you, okay? When you're talking about Faith and Buffy, by the end of season 7, do you think Buffy became more like Faith or Faith became more like Buffy?
I think Faith became more like Buffy.
Yeah, I'd agree. I would agree.
Like there's that scene. Oh man, shit, I forgot about this. You remember when they're oh god, actually there's multiple scenes. All right. So you remember the episode where Faith and Buffy start hanging out and they're dancing together at the club?
Yes.
Yeah. My more favorite scene when Faith was badass and she was an angel and she was dancing the Living Dead girl.
Yes.
Yeah, and she's like dancing with some dude and the chick's like, "That's my boyfriend." She's like, "Doesn't look like it now." And he's like, "Hey, it's okay, guys. Let's just dance together." And they get into a big fight. That dude screwed up for one.
Number one.
Like, babe, this is a Slayer.
Right? Oh, so good.
Faith is such a very tortured character, too. Because, I mean, you see, like, she was basically cast aside, gets these powers. She comes to Sunnydale. She doesn't really play by the rules. She gets Wesley as a watcher, which I think kind of really doesn't play well with that.
She should have had Giles. She's the Giles of Slayers.
Oh, she really is. Yeah, that's a good call. She falls into the mayor's kind of trap, essentially, and kind of works for him.
Becomes a baddie.
Yeah. Becomes good again.
Although she does torture Wesley later on. That's
right, she does. There is kind of that Faith Wesley kind of hatred for a while. Like, that's something you can't be like, "Hey, sorry, That's actually when Wesley kind of turned, too, wasn't it? That was the starting point of it. Because I think he was kind of like, no, I can essentially force Faith to be good again. And then she took him and tortured him.
And honestly, and Angel's the one that saved her. So you gotta give credit there. Angel's the one, like everybody wanted to kill her. And Angel was the one that stood between her and everybody, including Buffy.
Talked her into turning herself in and she went to jail.
And she waited until Wesley showed up and was like, "Oh, Angel's in trouble." And then she's like, "All right." And then she broke out of prison in less than 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, and she kind of had an idea too, because I think she had people like step up to her in the yard quite a bit, but she had like a lot of people doing it more now.
Yeah, because they were paying people, or the first was having people in prison try to shiver.
I think, didn't she say something along the lines like she pretty much like set the yard straight early on, but then she had an uptick of people trying to take her out.
Yeah. And then Wesley shows up and she's like, he's like, "Angel's in trouble." And she's like, "Step away from the glass." And then she just jumps through. She beats the shit out of 2 guards, then jumps out of a window. In less than a minute, she essentially breaks out of prison.
That's Faith for you.
Yeah.
Oh, man, Elijah Dushku.
Right?
You know what, Richard? Only character to show up twice in this list so far. Only actor to show up in this list twice so far.
True story.
All right, Richard, for my 6th round pick, this is a character that is kind of goofy. I would kind of say he's more of an anti-hero. There's times where you see kind of like a very caring side of him, but other times you're kind of like, yeah, this guy's kind of out for himself. Richard, I want to go with the hero of Canton. I want to go with Jane Cobb.
The man they call Jane.
Yeah. I really like this character in a sense because you kind of see it, it's a mercenary. It's a dude that like he goes where the money is. In the first episode, you kind of get that very much, but then you see where I think it was Kaylee was kind of hurt, and he's watching from the window. Mm-hmm. And I think he was the one that actually was going to go and kill the dude that got on the ship too. Like he cares for people, and some people, like, money doesn't matter. I think Kaylee's kind of like that. River doesn't really get to be that way, but funny character, you know. I'll be in my bunk. Try to trade his gun, his most favorite gun, for a companion.
It is my most favorite gun. Are you offering me a trade? Trade? Hell, it's theft.
I'll be in my bunk. He's a character that accidentally saved a town. Didn't mean to. He's got an interesting backstory. Like, he's one of those, like, you could see a bunch of one-shot type of episodes, like seeing his life.
Yeah, I could. Yeah,
I bet you wish we brought some more grenades. His interaction between him and Mal, and the other thing I think is great too is, like, you think Jane kind of has, like, the upper hand on Mal, maybe like with skill or power, but when Jane fucks up and almost gets River and her brother killed, Mal lays it out. Basically saying, like, you do this again, I will be the one to kill you.
Almost sends him out the airlock.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's where, like, you see, like, the Giles side of Mal, where he's like, dude, do not cross me. Mm-hmm. Like, I know I pay you. I know one day you're going to cross me. Don't cross my crew.
Agreed.
So there it is, Richard. That's my 6th round pick. It's the hero of Canton, Jane.
All right. Pick number 6 for me. I think I know what my 7th one's going to be. So, you know what? Sounds good. For my 6th pick, I'm going to go with the Everyman. I'm going with the Everyman because everybody loves the Everyman. Don't shake your head at me like that. Everybody loves the Everyman. And he lays it out totally at the end. And not only that, I would say he has if you're asking me who got the best jokes in the entire run of Buffy, it was him. I'm going with Xander Harris.
You know, honestly, I left him off my list.
Why?
I feel like seasons 1 through 5, I really, really liked him. It seemed like once he got a job and once he was getting kind of serious with relationships and stuff, I felt like that was too quick of a jump. Like, it was too much of, like, a character shift in just, like, less than a season. He did have the best jokes. You know, in the end, you know, like when he lost his eye, you kind of like that was a very emotional moment, I think, for his character. Like that was the peak of it.
I think that was an emotional moment for the audience because they were like, "Holy shit!"
What the priest say? Like, so you're the one that sees things, or something like that. I love that you always talk about, like, the episode where they go in that dreamscape, and Buffy's like, "I love you like a brother." And that's where it kind of, because he always kind of like had this thing for Buffy.
Big brother.
Yeah, he always had this thing for Buffy, and like you said, that episode kind of shifted. He's like, oh,
that's where, yeah, that's the moment. It was always this kind of like crushy thing, and it was from that episode on. It seemed like the switch flipped for him, and he was like, "Oh, this is what she means to me. This is the role that I am in her life, and this is the role that I want to be in her life."
The only, and maybe it seems kind of fitting for that kind of age, the only storyline that kind of, I don't know, again, kind of irked me was when him and Willow kind of started like cheating on their other relationships with each other.
Oh yeah,
I mean that kind of felt a little forced. I mean,
a little, but not really so much considering it's high school and you know, I mean, I feel like the infidelity is almost a given.
Yeah, I mean, I could see
especially when they've been together, they've known each other for so long. They're like, oh, I guess, you know, we have to eventually see where this goes.
They never slept together though, right?
I don't believe so.
Okay, they just made out.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, who hasn't made out with their best friend?
Anyway, that's my 6th pick. I'm going with Xander. Now let's move on.
All right, Richard, my 7th round money shot pick. Again, this was kind of tough. I've got one on here that I might regret not taking, but it's a guy that we only had a couple episodes of. He left for greener pastures, not because of the storyline. Mm-hmm. We find out that he was a werewolf. He was in a band. He was in love with a one Willow. I want to go with Oz. Like, This was a guy you talked about, like, great lines. Like, he had a lot of dry, just dry humor. He was always kind of there on the side. It kind of got to the point where all the characters in the Scooby Gang had some kind of superpower, some kind of ability, and he kind of got one because I think it was his cousin bit him, and his cousin was a vampire or a werewolf. Cousin or nephew, might have been a nephew.
I thought his cousin was a werewolf, and I think he was just like kind of like born into it.
No, if you watch, he got bit like on the finger by it was like a baby nephew or a cousin or something.
Okay.
Because then I think he finds out, like, oh, you mean so and so's a werewolf too? Oh, okay. That's like, and I think there's a little bit in the comics about Oz, like in this like werewolf pack that's like protecting this like some kind of like mythical thing. Mm-hmm. That would have been something like you saw him meet that one chick that they show that there's another werewolf in this world. Like to see that storyline, I think would be really really cool. Again, played in a band. Fell in love with Willow. I think his story ended before it really should have. I kind of wish he would have stuck around for a bit, but obviously he had to go on to better things like Robot Chicken. So I'm going to go with, for my money shot, my 7th round pick, a little bit of hairiness, but I'm going to go with Oz.
No, I would say in terms of your 7th round pick, not the strongest one. I think. I don't know. I guess we let everyone else decide, but my personal opinion, I'm going to go with, I don't know. My 7th round pick could beat the ever-living crap, not only out of Oz the person, but Oz the werewolf. Shawn, my 7th round pick, I'm going with the badass chick known as Zoe Washburn.
Ooh, okay. That's a good one.
Because Zoe, I feel like is the kind of girl that you would get. You could get a spinoff out of.
Oh yeah, for sure. In the comics, they've played it really good because Wash dies, and oh shit, there's one we left off. Damn. But it ends up that she's pregnant. So now you get a pregnant Zoe, and she just like has her kid there too. So I think you have
so great.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, you have like a TV series where it's Zoe in space captaining the ship with a newborn. Like the challenges that would come from that would be like pretty interesting.
Oh my god, that'd be so great. You have Zoe on the ship, and she'd be the mom, and Mel's like, get this kid out of my fucking engine room, and then she's like, don't say fuck around the baby. And then she points a gun at him, and then she's like, don't say fuck around the baby. Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, she was a strong character. She was one that, like, I love that when Wash first gets on the ship, she just despises him.
Yeah.
But they end up falling in love.
And she's like, it's almost like, like in a way, like, I guess I kind of identify my relationship that way because I feel like I kind of bumble and fumble through life and make jokes, and my wife is very serious and like fucking like gets her shit done and taken care of.
She's like, we've got a lot of duties to do. You said duty.
Right? And I feel like people walk up to her and they're like, why are you with this constant fucking chucklehead?
Yeah, I could see it.
And then she's like, he's nice.
He makes me laugh.
Yeah, right?
I don't have to worry about him sleeping with anybody else.
True story.
It's true.
Now I'm sad.
She'd break my neck.
If it happened, which it never would.
Well, Richard, what do you have for a couple of your and buts?
For and buts, I had Lindsay McDonald as one.
Oh, that's not bad. He kind of I didn't really like him at the end.
I felt like I thought it could have been super cool, but then I felt like he ended up becoming a very one-dimensional kind of character.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I wasn't really too sold on
like
him.
About the time he buffed up, like when he got super jacked.
Yeah,
like it seemed kind of like the D-bag really came out.
Cordelia I had on mine.
That's a good one.
Because, she starts out as like the mean girl and then becomes I don't even know what she
was
becomes.
It? It's like it was the voices or whatever it was. Like the seer.
She basically becomes like a prophet. Winifred I had on mine I felt like if Angel as a show would have gone on longer, then I felt like her character could have done a lot more.
Yeah, agreed.
And then I had Shepherd Book.
Let's see. For my ambuts, I had Angel, obviously, which is interesting. He didn't make our list at all.
No, he didn't make either one of our lists. It's because neither of us like him because he's the pretty boy.
Kaylee, I loved Kaylee.
She's
adorable. Yeah. She's great with the machines.
She ain't had nothing twixt her nethers that weren't running on batteries.
Oh, I don't need to hear that.
I could stand to hear a little more.
We didn't mention him, but I think it's worth being mentioned now. I didn't have him on my list, but Wash, I think would be legit.
Well, we mentioned him at the end.
Yeah, I didn't have him on my list, though. I think that I felt a little guilty about that. And then another Dollhouse character, which I think at the end of the second season just like made this character for me. His name's Topher Brink. He was the computer science dude on the Dollhouse programming. Like he was the one that put the new personalities in him and stuff. And he was the one that basically fucked up and caused all the downwardness of the post-apocalyptic world. And the very last episode, you see like a broken down like Topher Brink. Like if you realize like Rich is like, oh my God, I destroyed humanity. Like that's what you see with him. It was so like moving and like it's like a guy that just wants to do good. Like not really good, but just like that's not him. To do that, like, just broke my heart.
There were two other ones that I didn't have on the list because I wasn't sure how it would fall. One was Melinda May, and the other one was Phil Coulson because they're both characters on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But I wasn't sure because Joss is a producer on that show, and I think maybe writes a little. Belinda May is like the ultimate badass chick on that show. She's like the Zoe Washburn of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, nice.
And then, of course, Phil Coulson. But I don't think Phil Coulson really counts because he showed up like way back in the first Iron Man movie. Yeah,
I kind of avoided those because otherwise you start getting into like Captain America and stuff like that. It's like, well, he didn't really create those. He just kind of.
But I felt like you finally got like a cool Phil Coulson once Joss got a hold of him.
Yeah, I'd agree. Alrighty, well, let me run through these picks a little bit. So I'll start with me first. So for my first round pick, I had Buffy. Second round pick, Malcolm Reynolds. Third round pick, Spike. Fourth round pick, Echo. Fifth round pick, Wesley. Sixth round pick, Jane. And seventh round money shot pick, I have Oz. And for Richard, his first round pick with Willow. Second round pick, Giles. Third round pick, Glory. Fourth round pick, River. Fifth round pick, Faith. Sixth round pick, Xander. And seventh round money shot pick, Zoe Washburn.
Yeah, the Good best pick. List.
I like that seventh round pick. I think that was a very solid one. All right, Richard, do you have any Richard's closing thoughts for our Joss Whedon draft?
I got the brains and the brawn, and Sean's got a werewolf that plays guitar.
I mean, it's got a great band name, too.
It is a great band name.
All right, well, let me run through a little bit of housekeeping before we hear the sirens of the Buffy theme song. Visit our website, we're at languageofbromance.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at languageofbro. Email us at eatthebeaver@languageofbromance.com. Check out the LB Army intelligence reports. We've just added a Twitch stream. It's www.twitch.tv/DutchMasters99. Like us on Facebook, and word of mouth just helps this show so much. So go out, find a friend, find somebody on the street, find anybody, and tell them to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify for some Language of Bromance.
Yeah, we don't recommend assaulting people, but you can, I mean, if you want to grab them by the shoulders and shake them and be like, watch this show, listen to this.
Or just grab their phone and be like, oh my God, I need to make an emergency phone call. And then lock it and you just subscribe.
Oh my God. And then make sure and then give it back to them. Don't steal people's phones and don't assault people. But another thing you could do is ratings and reviews, because even if you don't think they help, they do help in terms of rankings on iTunes, rankings on Spotify, all those different platforms. They look at ratings and reviews to see how much you get and how good it is, and that determines, placements on pages and stuff like that. It's all a big thing. I don't know. There's numbers.
And remember, you can find us as part of the best Scooby gang of podcasters at the Pod Bros Network.
Yeah, the official Whedonverse podcast network.
Unofficially.
The unofficial official.
And if you want to go a little bit further and join our LB Army, like our LB Army member Patrick, go to our Patreon accounts, www.patreon.com/language of bromance.
Perfect.
All right. Was there anything else before I close her out?
No, we done here.
All right. Well, that's all the bromance we have for this show. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
And I say we eat the beaver.
Oh, see? I remember it.